We should do a more in-depth video on what's going on or what happened in Houston, where the Trump White House, it gave them 72 hours, the Chinese consulate, to close up. 72 hours. They went into they have like a courtyard, I guess, in the embassy, in the consulate, not the embassy, the consulate. And I guess in that courtyard, as they were burning documents, the fire department got warned of this, and they rushed over. But the main story here is number one, which we'll cover in a more in-depth video. Alexander, is number one. What do you make of Trump, the Trump White House, giving this order to shut down the Houston consulate? Of course, there's going to be repercussions for something. The Chinese will retaliate somehow. Maybe we can speculate how in our in-depth video. And the other thing that people are talking about is how normal is it for a consulate or an embassy that's being shut down to burn documents. I think it's part of procedure, is my guess.
Yeah, it is. Right. The first thing to say is it is in fact procedure. I mean, a lot of governments, when their consulates and embassies are shut down, if it has to be done very fast, 72 hours, they will destroy any documents in that consulate that are sensitive, because clearly there will be secrets there. And I don't mean necessarily military secrets, but, commercial secrets, all sorts of things. There will also, of course, be, because, China is China, United States is the United States. No doubt there will be also, real secrets, spy stuff and all that. But I mean, that's what all consulates and embassies of great powers do. Let's be completely realistic about it. So it's not surprising that they would burn them. I mean, I would add, by the way, that just for our viewers to know, that in 1979, the US embassy in Tehran was, as we remember, stormed by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, and the US officials shredded the documents. They went through shredders. And what then happened was that the Iranians got technology from someone, and they were able to sew all those documents together. So as I understand it, since then, the practice is no longer to shred documents. It's actually to burn and destroy them. So I don't think that's really an important story. The huge story is that whether the consulate has been closed. It seems to be retaliation for the fact that the Chinese have not been allowing US diplomats to go back to their consulate in Wuhan. I say seems because the Chinese are denying this. They're saying it's got nothing, the two cases are completely unconnected, and that the fact that the US embassy in Wuhan, of course, was the place where there was the virus outbreak. The US pulled out its staff. It's now trying to send them back. The Chinese want the staff to say, apparently, they supposedly want them to be quarantined before they return. There's been supposedly a row about this, and that the US has retaliated by closing down the consulate in Houston. The only thing that makes me a bit skeptical about that story is that the Chinese themselves are denying it. They're saying that the US consular staff that was heading back to Wuhan, that there were no problems. So, what do we know? But overall, the fact that each side is behaving in this way shows that China and the US, it's this, instead of being a civilized divorce, it's becoming an ever more acrimonious divorce. Things are now building up. Each side is now expelling diplomats, closing consulates, making accusations against each other, pointing fingers. You should see what the Chinese press, the media is saying about the US. Of course, people in the US are becoming increasingly critical of China. These two countries are now clearly heading towards a strongly adversarial relationship. And there's rumors that Mike Pompeo is on the brink of making a speech in which he's going to call on the Chinese people basically to rise up and overthrow the Chinese government. I think that's perhaps putting it a bit too strongly, but anyway, he's going to talk about the Chinese people putting pressure on the Chinese government to modify its behavior, which is always code for, changing the government in China. That's what we're being told is going to happen. That's not going to change the Chinese government. That's not going to happen in China, but it will make the Chinese very, very angry. And that's what I think it's intended to do. So we are looking at a complete adversarial relationship. The US and China are heading into a situation where they are opposing each other. And I think this decision to close the consulate in Houston, however it was made, whatever the reasons, the true reasons behind it, it clearly signals that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been here before. This is exactly how it was between the Soviet Union and the United States. And I think we're at the same point in history right now with China and the US. We're heading there. So we're going to see very much what that 70-year Cold War was like with the US and the Soviet Union. We're going to see it play out now for this next generation between China and the United States. Now we'll cover that, I think, in more in depth, because I think there's a lot of good stuff to analyze there.
Yes.
We'll also get into, in a video, more in depth, Alexander, on what's going on with Trudeau and the WE charity. Trudeau is now going to have to face a parliamentary finance committee on it. And I mean, the guy, once again, he's caught up in more scandals.
Yes.
Doling out more money to family members.
Yes.
900 million student grant program. I mean, this thing is just messy, but he's going to have to face the music. But you know what I say about Trudeau, and we'll cover it in a video as well. The guy's Teflon. I mean, nothing sticks to the guy. He had the SNC Lavalin scandal. He had the blackface scandal. 2-3 times he was caught wearing blackface. I mean, and now he has this. I mean, nothing sticks to the guy.
Well, indeed, because of course he's got so much of the media and the liberal intelligentsia and cognoscenti, they're behind him, and they will always look the other way. By the way, I'm going to just make a quick observation. This is, if you like, a mercurius rule of thumb, which is that political leaders who are the most voluble about criticizing others for corruption and who virtue signal the most are the ones who engage in corruption most. This has been an iron rule. I've seen it wherever I've seen people go on and on and on about corruption and talk about how bad corruption is. I always say to myself, well, there's something wrong there. And this has been true repeatedly. It was true of the Blair government in Britain, to just cite one example. It's true, if you remember, if you think about it, of the Obama administration in the United States. It's true of the so-called liberals in Russia in the Yeltsin period. And of course, it is true of the Maidan people in Ukraine. And of course, it is true of Justin Trudeau. I mean, I don't want, to sort of lump him together with the others on all those things. Of course, with Blair and Obama, he fits them completely. But this is, it seems to me, the consistent pattern. These people are always the first to break the rules that they preach towards all others. And it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Doesn't surprise me either that, as you rightly say, he's the Teflon prime minister. By the way, Tony Blair was too for a very long time. I can remember Tony Blair when he first, became prime minister, saying, you wouldn't use these words now, that he was going to be whiter than white. That was the language in those days. No corruption was going to be tolerated. He then, when there was the very first corruption scandal, which involved, believe it or not, Formula One racing, he came along on television and said that he was really a very straight sort of guy. I can remember all this so well. And then, of course, it all ended with police investigations about, how he was selling honours in return for money for the Labour Party to win elections and all kinds of other things like that. And again, as you correctly said, it didn't touch him. I mean, he's now a multimillionaire. He owns multiple properties. He owns a, huge house, one of, a huge, magnificent Queen Anne house. But, he's still there. And, somehow he still talks about corruption. Other people's, not his own. And it seems to me that Trudeau is exactly in the same category.
Yeah, they're all cut from the same cloth.
Exactly. To be honest, Trudeau, of all the leaders I've seen, Blairite style of politics has been very common. Lots of people have copied it. Trudeau is the one who comes closest. He really, really resembles, for me, so much of what Blair was like. And if Canadians want to know what Blair was like in Britain, well, they've got it in Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. I agree with that. All right, so we'll do a deep dive into that as well. And we've been covering the Ghislaine Maxwell story pretty much in depth. I've got another video on that coming out real soon. But we're also going to do some more videos on some recent news going on with Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein and all that stuff. You've got some news right now that you want to share with our viewers. What is it?
Absolutely. I mean, this has just come out, well, we've learned about it just, moments before we, doing this, talking to each other in this way. But apparently a court in Manhattan has now ordered that all of the documents that were sealed in the Ghislaine Maxwell case must now be unsealed. In other words, must be made public. Maxwell's lawyer is opposing this, and they apparently have been given a week in which to appeal the decision. I think these are the same documents that an earlier judge had said should be destroyed. Now it turns out they're going to be published instead. Two things to say. Firstly, apparently they do expose, there's a lot of names mentioned in these documents. There's some talk that these names will be redacted. Probably they will be. But one should be able to piece together quite a lot, even if they are redacted, and it will give us a sense of the scale. That's the first thing. The second point is in relation to the criminal case that's now being brought against Ghislaine Maxwell. Apparently, there are major contradictions between what she has said in the defamation case and what she has said in the criminal case. So it seems as if these papers will undermine her current defense. So, we have a lot going on there. It's going to be very, very interesting. We will see all of these papers when they come out. Well, we'll see what happens, first of all, with the appeal. And it'll be very interesting to see how it all shapes out and where it's all going.
All right, we will be covering it. And very quickly, Alexander, since we've been talking, we touched upon Canada. We have the winner for the Patriotic Legacy giveaway, by the way, so let me announce that as well. It is Dale, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, D-A-I-L, Dale, from Ajax, Ontario. Congratulations, you are the winner of the Patriotic Legacy contest. They will be getting in touch with you as well, so they can get that prize out to you. Alexander Mercur, Senator-Chief of Duran, thank you very much. Take care, everybody.